Hi there, it is Toby from Toby's Urban Sketch. Thank you for joining me again. Today I'm bringing you a little sketch from Malta. I went on holiday a couple of weeks ago, took some lovely photos, and I'm bringing them back here for you. The real focus today though is simplicity. I just wanted to take something which we could just bring back to simple shapes, adding some lovely colours and using some watercolour effects just to bring everything to life and make it really interesting despite how easy it is. So that is what today is all about. Hello everyone, this is Toby from Toby's Urban Sketch, and today is all about doing something really simple, quick, easy, simple sketching. We'll be using one pen. I'm going to be using a fude pen, which is a fine pen which has got a nib which lets you change your diameter of your lines with a bit of pressure, but you could just as well use a normal fine liner. Using my normal set of watercolours and just one size 10 brush. And this is an A5 bit of watercolour paper. The scene is up here, and it's a photo I took in the south of Malta a couple of weeks ago, and I think hopefully you can see, and the link also is up in the description, but the thing which drew me to this is obviously these coloured doors, all these different colours of doors at the bottom. So how can we just have fun with this, do something really simple and end up with a nice sketch as a result? Well, let's just start by deciding how big are we going to make this. I think we're going to focus on this building with the lovely doors, so we'll pop it maybe this big. We can even use a pen or two to map it out. It's going to be something like that with a little bit of perspective. So the perspective here is making the bottom and top of the building slope away from us, so we're going to have a vanishing point way over that way, and the longest side is going to be here because that's the closest side to us. So if we start by mapping in that building with our sketch, we can then decide how much we're going to keep and how much we're going to leave out, and having it mapped out with those pens can be quite helpful because it really lets you visualize things. So let's just go for it. So nice big lines, a couple of little random squiggles is fine, going up and down just to accentuate that line, and then we'll pop away there and just finish off the shape. So we just got a little rectangle there. Simple. The edge of the building is just visible here and curves away very sharply, so if we just add a little bit of up and down here again, we've now got the edge of our building, and all we've done is a little rectangle to the side. Do you see how these wiggles and things have just disappeared? Don't worry about little wiggles as you're doing your pen. I'd encourage you just to go straight for it with pen rather than pencil, just because you learn to understand these wiggles add, they don't take away. If you do pencil first and then you go for your pen, you'll probably never get these random wiggles, and you'll never learn how to cope with them and how to actually make them enhance. Anyway, let's keep adding the shapes. So at the top we've got this structure which presumably is something on the roof, and then on that it's all got a load of little actually I'm not sure what they are, little things. I was going to say like sunshades or something, but they're not, they're barely coming out of the wall at all, but they're up there and they look like that. And again, you don't need to know what something is because you can see the shape, so it's just a little rectangle. I'm going to add in a couple of the buildings that are going off to the side now, so just to sort of complete the image a bit. And again, we're just looking at shapes and where they intersect, so you can see this comes into the top of this building here, and then it slopes down so that it just touches beyond this corner. So that's a way that you can get accuracy without having to be super brilliant or having to measure loads. You just look at where things intersect other objects. And then we can't see the bottom of this building, but we can work it out from the perspective. Okay, and then we've got these doors. So there are 6 doors, and they're sort of fairly randomly spaced. So we can just go for it and use the references to give us an idea of where they're going to be. They're also slightly different sizes, so we don't need to worry about them being different sizes on our image. This green one is a bit bigger. as is this last one. So there we go. There's our 6 doors, and above each of those doors, except the blue one, is a window. So let's just pop the window in. Again, these are all just shapes. So we're just working out the shapes, working out the approximate positions of them, and then popping them in. And then what's next? We've got, each of them has got a balcony. So let's do the rectangle of each balcony first, which is the edge facing us. And then to the side of each of these rectangles is a little bit going down, which is the side that we can actually see. And then underneath we've got a little bit of the bottom that we can see, so we just draw that in. We've also got some little sort of feet which are stabilising it, so we just do a couple of parallel lines really, just to suggest that. We don't need to draw it in accurately. And then the last thing is obviously all this metalwork, the ironmongery. We can just start by some vertical lines, and they don't all have to be the same height. Try and make them approximately the same height, but also try and get some of that ruggedness in. And then we can draw the last bit, which is the horizontal line joining them. And now we have, without much fuss, got these doors, these windows, and this really simple idea of this sketch. Now we've got this building coming in here, which would be good to pop in. So we'll start with the bit at the back that we can see, and then we'll get this perspective in, which is really quite warped. So one thing you can do is pop your pen up to your reference, so you can pop it up like that, see the angle, bring it down, and that's what we need to do. This one I've drawn the roof up too high, so we'll just ignore the top of it and we'll get in our top here. And then this kind of comes down in behind here, so this is further forward because we've got another bit of the building coming out like that. And then we've got an open door, which is just another shape. And we're getting away from the focal point here. The focal point is all this really. And so we'll get less and less detail and less worried about accuracy as we move out. Just map in some of these shapes though. Okay, and then we've got some other sort of doorways and things. We can just get in approximately the right place, and really they're just dark silhouettes at this point, so we can just use some bold lines like this to suggest them. And what else do we want to add in? We've got all these lovely plants at the front, so why don't we get these in? We can do those just as very rough outlines and just make them points of punchy colour when we come to actually add the watercolour in a moment. We won't put one in here because it'll get squashed, so we'll just get the idea of all these plants rather than getting exactly what's in front of us. And that's part of what makes sketching easy. You don't have to do exactly what it says in front of you. You can make your own decisions and things like that. Now we've also got these cables which are certainly going to add something, aren't they? And we've got a little road sign as well and a curb. So let's start with the curb because that sets the foreground up for us. And it gives an idea of what's going on here as well with this little alleyway. So if we just get a nice bold line to suggest the front of that curve. We can add in a couple of sort of textual marks just there. And try and make them sort of in keeping with the perspective, so you get the idea of the shape of what's in front of you as well. And then let's get our little road sign in, so that can come, it's actually on this curb here, but I'm going to move it so that it's on this back pavement. I think that's just simpler for our eye to comprehend, to understand what it's doing there. And then we've got a in the back here we've got the telephone pole, and that's where all the cables are sort of coming in. And let's provide another telephone pole, again just to make it joined up and make it make sense, so it's easier to sketch. Because what's actually happening is they appear to be sort of clipped to all the buildings here, but it's really hard to interpret that as a simple drawing. We'll get them to keep going across, and then they also come out towards us, don't they? So we need to have a really careful look at the angle of these, because it's actually quite strange. They dip under and then they come all the way up and they actually intersect through the middle of the top. And that's the funny perspective of looking at something, as it starts over here and then goes above your head. So just practice that swoop and then just go for it. And then you've got those lines just swooping towards you. Okay, so what else can we do with our pen? Well, we've got some bold lines, and then some of our fun details have faded a little bit. So let's just go back in and just enhance some of that earlier pen work. That's all it takes, just a little bit. Now, these doorways, some of them are very dark. We can suggest a bit of that darkness, but what I'm going to do is mirror the colours of the doors at the bottom, so that we've got this nice joined up feel to these and these. So don't block them in too much. At least that's what I'm going to try. See how it goes from here, and you can do whatever you like. But just want to bring them forward. Getting these bold lines brings everything forward, and we want these. The reason I chose to sketch these fun colours, these fun doors, we want them forward, closer to us. Okay, and what else can we add? Well, the pavement just needs something, doesn't it? At the moment it's a sort of a void. So again, just these little textural lines which also suggest the perspective and make it easy to interpret what's going on. This house at the back, we can just add some suggestions of windows, and we can add suggestion of darkness in this door, and maybe suggestions of this little door. Well, that's a doorway, isn't it? This is the door. Suggestions that this door is made of wooden slats by giving it some texture. And then in the back here, there's not sort of nothing going on. There's actually another building. So if we really loosely just do these sort of horizontal lines, which is the top of the building, and then some vertical lines, which just suggest something busy in the back. We've also got little textural details in this building, which at the moment, again, it's a bit of a blank void, isn't it? So we're just moving around the image, seeing what we can add to make it more interesting. And what makes the other thing about this building interesting is all these bricks, which are lots of different colours. So just start mapping in a few brick-like shapes. Not loads, so just space them out, stop, have a look. Just be a bit gentle about how many you add and where you're adding them, but just space them out. I think that's enough for now. We can always add more if we want. And then I'm going to just try and get a little bit more shape out of these sort of unknown structures, just by making some of it dark underneath and leaving some of it a bit lighter. And then, as ever, because we've done that, we might want to bring forward some other lines, and then we might want to add some features to our doors as well. So some of them are single doors and some of them are double doors. So just where they're big enough for us to bring in a sort of element to that, we'll do that. This one's got these funny windows in it, so let's just do that straight away. And they've all got windows at the top, haven't they? So we can just map those in with our pen. Really easy. And already this sketch has sort of come to life. It's really simple processes, just shapes, textures, a little bit of perspective and practice and looking at how things intersect. But it's really come to life, and quite an interesting scene. Now we just move to the colours and we'll see how we can bring it to life even more. Now, as ever, I'm going to start with the sky, and I'm going to be holding my paper at a bit of an angle. So what I'll do, I'll move my desk down a bit so that you can see more of the paper. Now we'll get some nice flowing bits of water on the page. I normally use cobalt blue for the sky, but this sort of Mediterranean sky I think is a bit cooler, and it's a bit more of a cerulean colour. Cerulean's a very common colour to find in palettes, so if you've got it, have a go with it and see if you agree. It just fits the Mediterranean slightly cold, slightly almost hazy yellowness to the sky because of the different quality of the sun there. We can just drop that in. And again, unlike in a lot of my work, which is based around British skies, which are just full of clouds and texture and a bit mad, actually it's not so much the same here. This is more about a flat sky and some really interesting textures and colours going on below it. I am still going to link things up though. This alleyway is obviously an area of shade, so I'm going to just use that area to bring down that blue of the sky and just get that shaded, joined up look moving, which is really important to me in my sketching. We can use the same idea in some of these areas, and then just using a sort of mix I've got already in my palette, which is just some brown, probably a Van Dyke brown, and then we can emphasise some of that shadow while that's still nice and wet, and then just have a look and see how we're doing. So the yellow of the brick's really interesting, isn't it? It's a golden yellow, I'm going to say, a sandy yellow. So let's try something like a quinacridone gold, but I want it really watery because it's actually also very white. It's very light in colour. So let's just introduce that yellow really gently, and especially at the top we'll do it nice and gently, and I'm going to let it drip down because I don't want to put too much colour into this foreground. It's a sort of greyish tarmac, but I don't want to put too much colour there, and underneath here is all white. I know that we've got drips of yellow already, but that is fine by me. What I want to do is encourage some drips. So if we just pop some denser pigment in, and pop some up there maybe, and then we can just tap our page and hopefully get that moving. If that doesn't work, which it hasn't, a couple of things we can try. One, pop a bit more water in there, and that might just bring the weight of those drips to start moving. And let's just see, and there you go. So one of them's moving. We can also tap the whole page. There we go. The other thing, if that hadn't worked for me, what I'd have done is just blown on the drips, because you can blow sort of any pigment around with enough air pressure. Now that that's done, I'm going to start adding a couple of other textures and tones in there, because that's the interesting thing about this brickwork, isn't it? There's all sorts of different colours and things going on. So I've just got my Lunar Earth, which is a heavily granulating colour, and we'll just touch it into a few places and maybe use just Lunar Earth on these other buildings which we're not focusing that light on so much, and this one back here for example. And I just want these drips to keep coming down and keep making things interesting. Now these doorways, let's get some really bold colours on them. So we've got one here which is yellow, so if we go 3 doors along, that's bright yellow. So there we go. And I've just got a little sponge off camera which I'm using to clean my brush. We've got the next one along is lovely red, and I think we're safe to pop a little bit of red in here. It will run a bit, but that's fine by me. We can always just pick up some of that red to decrease how much it's run. This one's also going to be yellow because we're going to match these colours. The next one's a dark green. So let's get some green and then add a little bit of brown to it. And that will make it a really deep dark green. And I'm going to let some of this light stay and let this drip down as well. And then this green up here. Everything's still wet, so things are blending together. But do you see how well this has sort of come in, and then I've picked up a bit? It's created this interesting cauliflower of red. That's the kind of texture that I'm trying to encourage. I actively enjoy that. So having these colours move and blend, and you can see the green is doing it here, for me is a really interesting part of painting, and it makes this process so much simpler because I'm not trying to totally control everything. I'm letting things happen and, you know, claiming I did it on purpose. Moving along this way, so I've gone for a brown here because this is a sort of light cream, but this I think is more interesting as a brown. Here we've got a lovely blue. I'm going to use my cobalt for that because it's more of a primary blue. And then lastly we've got an orange, so I'm using a transparent pyrrole orange. And there we go. This red I'm just going to bring back a bit, and there. And again, I didn't want it to run that much, but that is fine because again I can clean my brush, and if I just pull it up a bit, clean my brush again, pull up some of it again, and suddenly it's just doing interesting things rather than affecting this whole area. And then let's get a bit more into the building now that we've done these interesting colours. So just some splashes will start adding more textures. Okay. And the last obvious thing that we want to do is these lovely greens, isn't it? So I'm going to use a sap green here, and I'm just going to touch it in really gently, and some of it will start spreading down these drops probably, but again that's fine. And this one here, and actually I'm going to splash it down, and then just still it's playing with that idea of these colours running down the page and making everything interesting and blending. Now the last thing I'm going to try and do, and we're almost done already, is add a little bit more shadow in a few places. So under these, let's just show that they're a 3D structure by applying some shadow. And in this alleyway, let's apply some shadow. What I'm using here is Moon Glow. So Moon Glow is a really good shadowy colour. It's actually a mixed colour, a pre-mixed colour, but it's a lovely shadow colour. And we can apply it to these sides as well, and then we can also just gently introduce it under these areas and into this doorway, and just touch it into these doors. And there we go. I would say that that is all done. Yeah, so just a quick sketch playing with a really simple idea, letting the colours do their own thing, playing with, you know, granulations and drips of water, and simplifying things by choosing colours which match rather than necessarily sticking to the exact colours we're seeing in front of us. And yes, lots of simplification ideas and just making it our own thing rather than having to be stuck with the interesting reference photo we've got. But if we try and stick to exactly that, it's going to take us a lot longer, it's not going to be as fun, we're not going to be able to relax as much. So we've done our own thing. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry, put my signature on it, and then I'll show you a scan of it at the end of this video as well. And thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Please do like and subscribe if so, and I love reading comments and I try and respond to all of them, so if you've got questions etc, just drop a comment as well.